Good morning to absolutely every single person in the whole world. My name is Obli, and today I'm bringing you a short little video on the DK changes. So you've got frost buffs, you've got unholy nerfs, and we'll deep dive into each of those specifically, and we'll talk about where that puts us in the mix. So let's waste no time, let's hop straight in. Okay, so what I've got here is the most recent buffs, and now more specifically we want to highlight the Death Knight buffs. So with Blood, you've had a massive buff to Deathbringer, and you've basically seen the same buff to Frost. Now, Blood of Life across the board for both Blood and Unholy has been nerfed, but I'm not being funny. This 20% instead of 25%, I'm not too sure if that's really going to impact where we are in the meta. It's what we've been asking for a little while, where we don't want this RNG factor to influence our DPS so much like it has been. So we'll see a small nerf. It's really not going to be very much. You can still play Unholy and still probably do a massive amount of damage. But more specifically, it's Frost. Now, we've had Frost buffed, Deathbringer specifically. Now, these buffs actually put Deathbringer ahead of Riders of the Apocalypse, but obviously Breath of Sinjagosa. Now, because Riders of the Apocalypse, that brings out the Shattering Frost build because of how well it synergizes with the new Deathbringer buffs. Deathbringer just doesn't fit very well with the Shattering Frost, tab targeting, Frost Strike build. We don't really care that much about that. So these massive damage increased. I mean, Exterminate is a big portion of Breath of Sinjagosa damage. Wave of Souls is, again, a very hard-hitting ability. And then Reaper's Mark, the actual damage itself, does a lot of damage. Now, the only issue is, the problem with Frost that they haven't addressed is how much damage Reaper's Mark actually does on an RNG basis. We thought the Blood of Life is bad. This is worse. There is actually nothing you can do about this. You just get it or you don't. With Blood of Life, at least it procs off of something that we do continuously, and over time you'll eventually get a proc. With this, you could see an entire raid fight where you don't get a proc. You could pop this ability 6 times in a fight and it would never reset itself, and that's just the way that it is. However, the upside is that it could reset itself 6 times, and then it will be by far the best single target damage. That is the only issue here with these buffs. Now, because of these buffs, it makes 2-minute burst quite important for us. So now we're thinking, okay, I'm in a raid encounter, and at 2 minutes, or more like 2 minutes 15, will there be some adds or a damage amp phase that Breath can utilize? Because that will then make Breath the better choice in the mix. I could say Cauldron of Carnage having some play here as an example, but what I did want to go over is the sims. So this was done by the guide writer in the DK Discord, and you have all of the builds put together here. So you have Frost, Shattering, Deathbringer at the top, so that's simming the most amount of damage, and then you have Breath so close, like not far behind. We're talking literally 0.2% behind. So now both of those are pretty much equal. Whichever spec you prefer to play, if you like the Breath spec, you can play that. If you like the Shattering spec, you can play that too. Two-handed, you still wouldn't really want to play. That's a little bit too much of a DPS decrease to see it much play. It's a little bit better than Rider, which was 3%. Whereas playing Deathbringer is 1.5%. It's a little bit less harsh. But I do think it's overall super healthy. Now, even though Breath has been buffed, you do kind of want to pay attention to the damage profiles, because Breath doesn't have any Execute. So in Mythic raid encounters where Execute is quite important, like Mugsy for example, Unholy will still be by far a better choice to play. But when there might be adds on a 2-minute basis, all of a sudden, Breath is quite nice. Now, my opinion with the Shattering build versus the Breath build is I actually much prefer playing the Breath build. I just feel like it's a lot less forgiving because you just have those large burst windows you need to execute. But once you know how to execute them, it's fine. Whereas with Shattering, you sit on a lot more procs. It's a lot more constant play and constant upkeep of things, where Breath, it just isn't so much that. It's not to say that if you don't play well in Breath outside of the burst window that you'll still do well, because obviously you wouldn't. But at least it's not those constant 45-second windows you need to execute perfectly every time to do a tremendously good amount of damage. With Breath, it's just make sure that that's really good. If you fuck something up outside of your Breath window, it's not the end of the world. All in all, I think it's a brilliant change. I think it brings all of the specs much closer together, which is very nice. Anybody who wants to play anything, you can. The only thing is two-hand is still a little bit far behind. However, I think I would have liked to have seen some buffs to the damage that wasn't RNG. I mean, it's nice to see the Wave of Souls damage increase. That's good. It means you can be a little bit more smart with how you position yourself. So when you shoot out the Wave of Souls, aim for more things. However, yeah, the RNG element being buffed is not my favourite in the world. I mean, I'm not a big advocate for RNG damage. But it is what it is. can't complain on a buff. But thank you very much for watching, everyone. Like, comment, subscribe, and see me on Twitch if you want to see some real life gameplay. But thank you very much. See you soon.